Gorilla gave birth to twins, but the doctors noticed something wrong. They have a closer look at the babies and realized it's not infants, it's her toddlers. This mother surely has a lot on her mind with 2 children, but the happy gorilla has 2 reasons to celebrate. Her new arrivals are an extremely rare occurrence in the captive bred species. Twice in 10 years, twins are born globally in zoos. That's once every 20 years. They knew the imposing matriarch of the Arnhem Zoo was going to give birth. But they were stunned when they woke up to find their 2 new babies. The twins, a boy and a girl, will cling to their mother for the first 18 months of their lives, having little contact with any of the other species. But once they're old enough to being in roaming, the great ape and closure for themselves, other members of the group, including the 23-year-old dad, Hawaii, will be able to get to know their youngest playmates. Wilco Limper's head, zookeeper of the great apes at Burger Zoo, said in Gorilla World, twins are very rare because in the last 50 years there has only been 10 births. The father is not doing anything in the beginning, only sits next to her to protect her towards the others. When the youngsters are 1.5-year-old, they want to play and then they'll play with them, and that's quite nice to see. Wilco Limper's head keep of the great apes at the zoo told RTV. Limpers told reporters that while the zoo knew Gala was expecting, it was a complete shock when she found one morning holding no newborns, a boy and a girl. The twins will live in their family for 8 to 10 years before being sent to another zoo in order to prevent incest within the group. It was a great challenge. It's a girl. Nadiri, a 19-year-old gorilla at the Woodland Park Zoo, gave birth to her daughter at 11:30 a.m. on Friday. The birth was natural, as zookeepers had hoped. They didn't intervene. Labor for the first time, Mom took 4 hours start to finish. But when Nadiri walked away from her baby, keepers watching closely could see the infant was moving, those still wrapped in placenta. The Seattle Zoo wrote in a blog post on Friday, "We made the call for the safety of the baby. It was time to intervene." The post continued while we hoped Nadiri would immediately hold and care for her baby. "We stepped in for the safety of the newborn and made the decision to let the new mom rest." The zoo's animal health team examined the baby. She is healthy and weighs 5 pounds, which is on the big side for a baby gorilla. Typically, newborn gorillas weigh 4 pounds. Zookeepers have set up a bedroom next to Nadiri's den, so she can hear and see her baby. Our goal is to methodically expose Nadiri to her baby and help kick in that maternal instinct. The zoo story said she remains within visual context and has context focalized toward the baby. So she's showing some interest. For now, though the baby is in human hands, the baby has taken her first bottle, and she will be cared for by the keepers until Nadiri reaches for her child. The father is Whip, 36. He has sired 6 kids with 3 females at Woodland Park Zoo. It's not the happiest ending to this story, but it's better than what happened when Nadiri was born. In 1996, zookeepers and Swedish hospital doctors rushed in after Nadiri's mom Jumok had labored for 40 hours and pushed for 6. Jumok was anesthetized and the baby suctioned out. Fraser believes that Jumok was traumatized and confused by her birth experience. When zookeepers would present Nadiri to Jumok, Jumok would look at her but wouldn't pick her up. She was so nervous from what had happened the night before. She didn't understand that she had given birth to her because she was asleep, so she did not know what was expected to do. Bonding was further impeded when Jumok's partner, Nadiri's dad, died 2 weeks later. When Nara got pregnant, zoo workers said they didn't want to get involved in birth. If we never have our hands on this infant, never have to handle it in any way, I would consider that a huge success for all of us. Harmony Fraser, a senior veterinary technician, told KUOW this week, Gorillas interact vocally in a way that we can't replicate and understand. Fraser said, "They need the smell, they need the sounds, they need to hear the other gorillas interacting." It's really important that they get that from the beginning. No one believes what really. A rare monkey who was snatched from her enclosure with her baby by gangsters in an organized raid has given birth to twins. Moma, a cotton-top tamarin, was stolen from Blackpool Zoo alongside 4 other monkeys last April by a suspected group of black market pet thieves. The 15-month-old was discovered days after being abducted, but her baby was never found. Now, more than a year later, the animal has given birth to healthy twins, which are doing well. Moma was stolen from her enclosure in the dead of night last April by a group of suspected animal traffickers. The rare monkey was found in a cardboard box 3 days later, alongside 3 other animals, but her offspring was never found. Keepers at Blackpool Zoo feared she may never recover from the sadness of losing her baby when they discovered she was in the early stages of pregnancy. Keepers at Blackpool Zoo were devastated earlier this year when 5 of our monkeys were stolen, as every single animal we have here is considered. A member of our zoo family, said Charlotte Penny, senior primate keeper. We worked very closely with Lancashire Police, and following huge media interest, 4 of the 5 were found days later. The 2 new babies, who are yet to be sexed and named, are doing extremely well, and we are delighted for. The pair are also vital for the international breeding program, so it is great news all around. Lancashire Police feared Mama and the other monkeys were targeted to be sold in the black market as pets to wealthy buyers when they were snatched last year. When they returned to the zoo, they had to sleep in a separate crate in case the other animals had forgotten what they looked like and decided to attack. That was a serious concern, but with the speedy return, we got them back in time and managed to reintegrate them. The female was very quiet when she first came back. That may have been the stress as well as the fact that she was missing her baby. They had had a few marks on them, but otherwise they came back healthy. We were also happy to get them back. To be honest, to get any of them back was brilliant, but the baby was so dependent on its mother. I think we have come to the conclusion we are not going to see that one again. Lancashire Police revealed no one had been arrested in connection with the investigation. The cotton-top tamarin is a small, New World monkey weighing less than 0.5 kilograms, one of the smallest primates. It's easily identified by the long white sagittal crest extending from its forehead to its shoulders. Up to 40,000 cotton-top tamarins were caught and exported for use in biomedical research before 1976, when they were given the highest level of protection and all international trade was banned. The wild population is estimated at 6,000 individuals with 2,000 adults, with the species listed among the world's 25 most endangered primates in 2012. Experts say small monkeys like tamarins and macaques are becoming an increasingly popular pet in the U.S., despite a ban by several states on owning primates. Justin Bieber had a pet capuchin for a while, but left the animal in Germany after failing to provide sufficient vetting documents to authorities at Munich airport. This was a hard moment. A gorilla at the Philadelphia Zoo has given birth to a healthy baby after a difficult labor that required medical techniques typically used for delivering humans. A keeper noticed 17-year-old Kira had gone into labor on Thursday. Gorilla labor is typically very quick, but by Friday it had not progressed, and she seemed unwell. Concerned about her and the baby's health, the zoo brought in a team of veterinarians and doctors who treat people. They included an OB/GYN surgeons and anesthesiologists from hospitals affiliated with the University of Pennsylvania and Thomas Jefferson University, as well as University of Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine. A similar team was in place for a gorilla birth at the zoo last year, but the emergency response wasn't needed. After 1.5 hours, the team delivered the male baby using forceps and an episiotomy, a procedure to enlarge the birth opening. It was an anxious and dramatic day at the zoo, but in the end, a tremendously rewarding one, said Andy Baker, the zoo's chief operating officer. There have been several successful caesarean section deliveries for gorillas over the past few years. But assisted vaginal delivery isn't common according to the zoo. Kira was reunited with the baby by Saturday morning and has been continuously cradling and nursing him. This is the first birth for Kira and third offspring for 32-year-old Matuba, who is also father to baby Amini, a female born at the zoo last August. Western lowland gorillas, which inhabit African forests, are listed as critically endangered species. This was weird too. The world's first gorilla to receive fertility treatment to help her conceive has died at her British zoo. Mother of 3 Salome passed away at age 41 at Bristol Zoo, keepers say. The western lowland gorilla never got to see the wild. After being conceived, Bristol Zoo moved to London Zoo, where she was born and hand-reared, and then moved back to Bristol Zoo in her 20s. She gave birth to her first baby at Chessington Zoo in 1988, and in 2004 made history when she became the first gorilla in the world to receive fertility treatment. Zookeepers noticed she made it regularly but struggled to conceive. Salome was given the human fertility drug Clomid to help her release eggs, and 2 years later she gave birth to Kamel. 5 years later, in September 2011, her third baby, Kukina, was born. More recently, Salome was given medication for heart disease after being diagnosed this summer. She had showed little interest in her favorite foods, lettuce, chicory, and peppers, which alerted vets who examined her. Dr. Brian Carroll, Chief Executive Officer of Bristol Zoo, said everyone is extremely saddened by Salome's death. The zoo has lost one of its most popular animals and one of its great characters. So many of us feel we've lost a friend. So many people knew her and recognized her by a small ginger patch of hair on her head, and they would return time and time again to see her. She was loved by our guests and by our keepers and staff alike. Salome's was one of 8 western lowland gorillas living at the zoo and was considered the most intelligent. Often visitors sought her out to watch Salome building nests on the glass above their heads in the 360-degree viewing area in the gorilla house. She was born after Mother Lomi was brought to Bristol Zoo and introduced to male gorilla Samson. Bristol Zoo is run by Bristol Zoological Society, which helps to conserve gorillas in the wild in Cameroon, where deforestation is putting their survival in jeopardy. Typically, gorillas live until 35 to 40. This was an unusual case. Anytime a baby animal is born, it's an event for us here at the zoo. But when a baby arrives to the world in a special way, it's an even bigger deal. That's the case with this as yet unnamed baby gorilla that was born at the San Diego Zoo recently. The young lady is a rare lowland gorilla, and she was removed from her mommy via C-section after 12 hours of labor. 4 hours is very long for a gorilla. So when Mama, Ameni, 18 years old, was giving birth for 3 times as long, it became apparent to the veterinarians at the zoo that the baby had to be removed surgically. She was born with a collapsed lung and a wicked case of pneumonia. But thanks to the great doctors at the zoo, she's in stable condition and had been allowed to go back to her mother's care. The team in San Diego is still going to keep a close eye on this sickly little one, but she's looking like she will make a full recovery. She was born tiny and sick, but someday she'll be almost 6 feet tall and 400 pounds. Her handlers better get their hugs in now before she's too big, because she's already strong enough that they're having some trouble doing her exams. We'll keep an eye on her for you and let you know how she grows up and if they ever give little one a name. Our vote is for April. No known living primate has as much difficulty giving birth as human beings. The principal reason giving birth is harder for humans is the size of the infant's head compared to the size of the pelvic opening that it has to pass through during birth. But the size of the pelvic opening is limited to the mechanical demands of walking upright. The anatomy of the human pelvis reached its current form quite early in human evolution. The pelvis of Australopithecus, i.e. Lucy, was already very similar to a modern human pelvis in shape and proportion. At that time, though, brain size was still about the same as that of chimpanzees. So infant head size was likely small enough for Lucy and her kin to have had no more trouble giving birth than modern chimpanzees and gorillas. So given that the pelvis has stayed stable for most of human evolution, since the split with a common ancestor with chimpanzees, the thing that did change was infant head size as a result of the gradual evolution of even larger brains. There would not likely have been any single moment in evolution when giving birth suddenly became harder on the body. Instead, the process of giving birth would have gradually become harder and harder as the brain enlarged, and the head size of newborn infants gradually increased. Brain size increased from the 300 to 400 kek seen in various Australopithecines to 450 to 600 kek on average in early Homo, i.e. habilis and rudolfensis, etc. During the time period of Ich and Garster erectus, we see brain size gradually increase in about 600 to 100 kek. Modern humans have brain sizes ranging from 1,200 to 2,000 keks, with the average about 1,400 kek. Other late Homo species, such as the Neanderthals, were in the same range. The Neanderthal average is about 1,600 kek, but they also had bulkier bodies and thus bigger pelvises on average. Given the above, we can hypothesize that difficulty in giving birth reached the level we see in modern humans around 500,000 to 200,000 years ago. This was the period when the last group of Homo species, most of whom appeared to have similar brain sizes relative to their bodies, emerged. There are some other factors which do not fossilize well that can impact ease and difficulty of giving birth. We do not know what the relative maturity of the newborn was. We know that in modern humans, babies are born relatively immature, only 3/4 the way through gestation, so that the last spurt of brain growth can occur outside the womb without being limited by the pelvic size of the mother. We do not know if the same pattern occurred to the same extent in other late Homo species like Neanderthals. We also do not know how much more social cooperation or help females got while giving birth in other human species. Did Neanderthals have the equivalent of midwives? That too would greatly impact the ease of giving birth. It is possible that a human female could act as a surrogate mother for a fertilized gorilla zygote. There might not even be any complications in the pregnancy, although it hasn't been done. I would put money on it being both possible and feasible. However, if said baby gorilla was born, I'm almost certain that it would not be granted human rights. It would be afforded animal protections, which might result in its being taken into a primate shelter, but it wouldn't be granted rights of citizenship in most countries. The reason for this is that citizenship rights are offered to persons, and the legal definition of a person specifies that they are a human being. While there is some wiggle room in defining a human being, most precedents suggest that only individuals of the genus Homo can be considered human. Biologically, the gorilla baby would still be classified as belonging to the genus Gorilla, but it would not be a legal person and would therefore not be afforded rights of citizenship or human liberties. A human baby would definitely die quickly if left in the care of a gorilla, despite its best efforts to care for it, and generally gentle disposition. There's also that possibility that a gorilla would view the baby as a possible threat. It might not know that a human child is harmless and act accordingly. Capture a human baby, bring it to the gorilla enclosure in the zoo, and leave it there. You'll be able to see how an animal would take care of an infant.